Peace be with you. Somebody asked me to share my views on eschatology, and although I usually try to stay away from topics such as these because they ultimately prove to be very divisive and because they are based on mostly conjecture, meaning they are not mentioned in the primary sources at all, usually people will argue endlessly about them, and it never turns out to be a pleasant discussion. But in this case, I decided to do so because this is actually an important topic, and it is an important topic because of a concept called self-fulfilling prophecy. Meaning, if you believe something is going to happen, you can even subconsciously work toward that goal. And if your goal or your belief is the end of days, you'll have people who are so into that they inadvertently do work toward the end of days by working to facilitate things such as nuclear wars and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I think a large proportion of evangelical Christians desire the return of Jewish people to Israel for only for that reason, so they can bring about the end of days. Uh, so when we talk about the end of days, most of this theology comes from either the book of Revelation in Christianity or Hadith in Islam. And although, for example, in Islam, although I do not reject all Hadith, I do probably completely reject the whole concept of Mahdi and Dajjal and the account of end of days because of what I read in the Quran. So for me to accept the hadith, and I know this is not a mainstream opinion by any means, but I think it has to at least relate in some way to the Quran. And if it doesn't, then I really think that the Quran is the Furqan, as it is called in Arabic, meaning the criterion between right and wrong. So there has to be some mention of something that these hadith describe in the Quran for me to believe it. Although I believe plenty of other hadith, these particular hadith I find very suspicious. Okay. Uh, Same thing in Christianity. The book of Revelation is really much, much different from what you read in the Synoptic Gospels, meaning Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And, the account of that is shared or at least quoted as the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, saying things is very much different than what the book of Revelation says. And the eschatology found in the book of Revelation is very similar to the hadith of the Mahdi and the Dajjal, with just some names changed. So that is very, very similar. So just to explain why I have these doubts that I have about the official theology or the official eschatology of Christianity and Islam, I'm just going to quote some verses from the Quran and from the Bible to explain my position and why I hold this position. And again, I am fully aware that this is not nowhere near the official position of any of the mainstream sects of Islam or Christianity. So I am absolutely outside of any mainstream thought on this, and that's fine. I really don't care. But I just wanted to, point out that this is not the official theology by any means of any mainstream religion. This is just my thoughts, and I usually try to avoid topics like this that I can't prove decisively from the Quran and that are not all that relevant to how we live life. But I'm gonna talk about this because of that reason, because of the reason I elucidated before, that this does govern people's behavior to a certain extent, especially people who are firm believers in the end of days narratives. So the first verse I'm going to quote is from the Quran, chapter 7, verse 187. And here we're told, they ask you about the hour. When will it be it's taking place? And then Prophet Muhammad is told to answer, Kul. So you have people asking him, is the end of the day going to come? And so he answers, he is commanded to answer, the knowledge of it is only with my Lord. No one but he shall reveal it at its time. It will be momentous in the heavens and the earth, and it will come to you suddenly. They ask you as if you were well informed about it. Again, Kul, say, its knowledge is only with God, but most people do not know. So we see in the Quran in a few places what he is commanded to answer in regards to these questions, and that's at some point he said these words to some people, and this is what they heard. Okay, so that is one reason why I believe that you cannot go from being commanded to say this all of a sudden to being offered to offering a detailed account such as the hadith about Mahdi and Dajjal. Also in the 20th chapter of the Quran, we're told that at that time when the hour oh no, that's in the 30th chapter of the Quran. We're told, and at the time when the hour shall come, the guilty shall be in despair. So we know that's what he told people. When the hour comes, the people who are guilty, they will be despairing. In the 21st chapter of the Quran, verses 38 and 40, we're told, no, it will come on them all of a sudden and cause them to be confounded, so they will not have power to avert it, nor shall they be respited. So we know that it's going to come all of a sudden, and there's nothing we can do about it. In the 33rd chapter of the Quran, verse 63, we're told, men ask you about the hour, people ask you about the hours. And then again, kul, say, the knowledge of it is only with God, and what will make you comprehend that the hour may be near? So that's what he is commanded to say to people, you know. Again, in the 67th chapter of the Quran, verses 25 and 26, we're told, and they say, when shall this threat be if you are truthful? Again, kul, the knowledge of it is only with God, and I am only a plain warner. So he says, I'm just here to warn you that this will happen, but God knows everything about it. In the 79th chapter of the Quran, verses 42 to 46, we're told, they ask you about the hour. When will it come? About what? You are just the one to remind it. To your Lord is the goal of it. You are only a warner to him who would fear it. On the day they will see it, it will be as though they had not stayed but a latter part of the day or an early part of it. So really, it's very, very limited to what he is described as saying in the Quran, right? Just, hey, I don't know, I'm here to warn you about it. It's going to be all of a sudden, and you're going to regret it if you're guilty. That is literally the eschatology that is mentioned in the Quran. So could have he told people other stories and other accounts? Certainly, but they cannot be outside of the scope of what is in the primary source, meaning the Quran, right? That's really, when you look what he was commanded by God himself to say, it's very, very difficult to say that he then went into a complete and detailed explanation of the end of days. When God just told him, hey, to tell people, hey, look, I don't know. So that's very difficult to believe. And similar concepts can be found in the Bible. And I'll just quote a couple of verses from the Bible for the sake of brevity. So in the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 13, verses 32 to 37, we're told, but about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time will come. It's like a man going away. He leaves his house and puts his servants in charge, each with their assigned tasks, and tells the one at the door to keep watch. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether it's in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or at dawn. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to everyone, watch. So again, that same eschatology that is mentioned in the Quran, that it will come suddenly and that you should be ready because the guilty are going to regret their behavior when it does come. And again, even in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, this is repeated, and it says, but about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. And it basically, Bible has few more verses in the Synoptic Gospels about it, and how people are going to be separated, and there's going to be great distress, but nowhere near the detail that is mentioned in the book of Revelation. So I think the book of Revelation and the Hadith that talk about the eschatology or the end of days in Christianity and Islam, I think that is all just somebody's fantasy that has very, very little to do with what the prophets themselves brought and what they told us about the end of days. What they said is, be careful. It's going to be all of a sudden. You don't know how much time you got, so you better be on your best behavior, because it can be tomorrow. And it's going to be grievous, and if you're guilty, you're going to regret it. And that's really the only eschatology you really need to know, because what you do in life or what you should be doing by God is already very well delineated in God, and what you think about the end of the days doesn't really change anything unless you follow some sort of conjecture that makes you act differently from the way that God wants you to act, and somehow you become unjust and so bloodthirsty that you want the end of the world to that great of a degree that you are working towards it, and you can't bring it on. Only God can bring it on. So those are my views on eschatology. Peace be with you.